Okay, awesome. We're good to go. What's up, guys? Bren here. Everybody on Twitter, Telegram, wherever you're seeing us. Appreciate you for being here. It's going to be another exciting, super timely one. Today, we're going to be discussing a lot of things, but at the top of the show, obviously, the most relevant thing going on right now is obviously the trade war going on between specifically the U.S. and China. Probably the most relevant right now. New tariffs from what I understand, 104% tariffs going on in place in China today. We'll be discussing that with everybody on the panel here, specifically 40-year Trad 5 vet, wizard, I called him in my post, Max, aka Mike here. If for those of you guys don't know, Mike has had, like I said, decades of experience in both traditional finance. He's been on Fox News, CNBC countless times, but also super crypto OG as well. We'll be hearing from him. And then we have another special guest that we're excited to have on. We had on one other time a few weeks ago, Ben Lin. What I understand, Ben is a fund manager who has, who deals with U.S. equities as well as international. And as we talked about him last time, he actually has a pretty bullish outlook on China as far as the U.S. or as far as the markets go. So I'll be excited to hear from him. First of all, how you doing, Ben?
Doing good. Turbulent times.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you coming on, especially during now. You having a good day so far?
Oh yeah, fantastic day.
Right on,
Love the
man.
volatility.
Hell yeah. So before we get into the trade war stuff, I do want to do a quick review, which you do every show with our boy Rhodes here, who goes over everything that's kind of gone on, a quick summary of the past few days since we were on stream. Rhodes, you want to take that over, brother?
Yeah. So as Bren mentioned, it's the last few days have been really chaotic. Lots going on over the weekend. Tariffs kind of escalating. Markets moving Thursday, Friday, and then pre-market coming into Monday. Monday they were kind of slightly green. Get a bit of a bounce there. Bitcoin has seen a bit of a fall off, trail off post all of that. It had held initially, but tariffs and macro uncertainty has led to Bitcoin kind of dumping. We've seen as low as sub 75K, which was priced in at 45% probability for April just a short few days ago on Friday. So we wicked down, caught that, and it matched the poly market bet there. White House is no longer wants the U.S. dollar as a global reserve. Between the lines, that sounds like something like crypto or Bitcoin as a perfect alternative in that situation. Really, a play out here is that they're giving up too much to make it a reserve. Larry Fink says, buy, don't sell. Possibility of another 20% slide in the stock market, but at this point, this is a excellent buying opportunity. We've seen it through the past. Every time we get one of these capitulation type events, buying that dip tends to play out very well in the mid long term. Ray Dalio calls tariffs, etc., a once in a lifetime event, kind of a combination of things coming together here to create this kind of bit of a storm. Recession odds up to 62% on Polymarket, and AI agent market cap down 1.5% to 4.65 billion. NFTs volume still hanging out low. Solana and Ordinals very low. Ethereum kind of where we were at for the last several days, 10 to 2 weeks. We have a few movers on the day. A lot of this is just repricing, given the fact that Ethereum has slid so bad. Doodles are up 6.9% to 2.78. Grifters up to 16.99 ETH. This is an X copy art, up 6.9%. So again, a repricing, and you see NFT art, really a kind of a flight to quality there. Milady's usually the counter trade on NFTs, but also up 5.8% to 3.15 ETH. Again, a repricing in ETH terms to balance the USD dollar price. Meme coins, notable movers, only one up on the day, at least at time of check. Farcoin is up 11.1%, 11.2% on the week. Kind of the lone bright spot right now when it comes to meme coins, up about just over 11% from earlier in the week. We've been hovering around that 500 million mark a fair bit. Doge is down 15% on the week. Pepe is down 21% on the week, 5.8% on the day, and SPX 6900, another of the major leaders, down 14% on the day, down 20% on the week. Prediction markets, April Bitcoin price achievement, we're looking at only 5% probability of 100K, and 70K is now up to 45% probability. I'm not sure exactly where it was at prior. Again, we had our 75K as our marker. We hit that. The 75K marker was at 47% as a comparison on Friday. So very similar. But that's the roundup. Excited to get into this discussion.
Oh yeah, thank you, Rotes. And we do see your comments and questions in the chat. As we go on with as we go on with this discussion here, I will be looking at that. If you have any questions for Ben or Max or whoever when it's time, I'll definitely be asking those. But I forgot to mention at the top of the stream, obviously Bitcoin down below 80K again today. We've been talking a lot about this CME gap. This is not the CME chart, but let's see if I can pull it up real quick. I think it's, yeah. The CME gap right here, this line that I had, drawn here. If it were to close here today in an hour, which it probably will, that will be officially closing that gap, which Max has been talking about in this stream. Definitely an interesting area to watch here. There's usually a lot of capitulation at the bottom of here. We'll talk about Bitcoin prices and all that later on, but I want to get into it. Let me share this. Yeah, tab. The trade war, obviously, what's going on lately is what's here. Let me go to this real quick. Sorry. Today, I want to hear from both Ben and Max here. Obviously, today, White House, the 104% tariffs on China. They said it went into effect today. First of all, just this. What do you make of this, Ben? The 104% tariffs. Do you think this is something that's going to stay in place for a while? Do you think China or the U.S. will, one of them two will quote unquote back down? How do you see this playing out over the next few months?
Is that for Max?
Yeah. This right here?
No, yeah. The question
is to Ben. Sorry.
Oh, got it. Yeah, this is Ben. I don't think both parties gonna back down, to be honest. 1 second. I keep hearing myself.
Maybe. Are you hearing an echo?
Yeah, I do hear an echo.
That might be. Yeah, no worries. Take your time.
Yeah, just mute if you're not talking, and it'll probably solve it.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perhaps jump in and out, Ben, and we can hear from Max first.
Get that figured out. I guess I'll just post that same question to you, Max. I know we've been talking a lot about everything here, but as far as this 104% tariffs, first of all, what do you make of it, and how do you see this playing out over the next few months?
I think that anybody who's watching every line item realizes that China decided that their best bet was to tell Donald Trump in public to fuck off. And that's usually not the way to do it, but they chose that was the best way to show their strength. And the very last thing that I would have done had I been them was that, because you got exactly what you should have expected. We can all sit here and guess how long this lasts, but I promise you the only thing I do know is that the United States can afford for it to last a lot longer than China can. So however long that is, Ben may very well be 1,000% correct that neither one of them backs down, but that's going to be awful painful to one side of that equation at a time where they can't afford it.
Yeah, this is Ben here.
That's very interesting. I guess I want to hear from Ben too, because
Yeah.
I mean, part of the interesting side of who needs to back off faster, either the U.S. and China. I agree with Max that the U.S. has more time, but at the same time, I believe that uh, I guess the total trade for China within the U.S. is about 8% of the total international trade. And I don't know, Ben, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what are your thoughts on China backing faster or continuing the trade war?
Yeah. So this is a Ben. I agree with Max 100%. So I don't think either party is gonna back down, especially the way I know he is pretty much craving for power ever since he got into his position, and backing down from this trade deal, this trade war is gonna mean that he is giving up his power. So I don't think that's gonna happen, but China is gonna get hurt way more than the U.S. Because if you look at the import export, the China export to the U.S. is $440 billion, and the U.S. export to China is about one third of that. It's $140 billion, and most of the export from the U.S. to China are agricultural products and energy products, which can be absorbed domestically. So U.S. is at a much advantageous position when it comes to negotiation. Uh, so at the end of the day, this is a really bad deal for China, in my opinion. So I think if you say who hurts more, I would say China get hurt way more than the U.S.
Yeah. It's unfortunately that I think Ben is right. What's driving this is Xi Jinping has to prove to 1,400,000,000 people that he's in charge. Because see, if this really gets bad, what Xi Jinping always has a risk of is social unrest, and I don't think that that's what Xi wants. I think he would much prefer to keep everything in order under communist rule at the end of the day. And I think here's what I think is happening. My suspicion is to the public, they're going to look like they're two bulls at the top of a mountain butting horns, and in private, they're talking on the phone. That's what I think is happening, and neither one of them is going to say in public that they're going to back down until each of them privately has found a way for Xi Jinping to back down but not appear to anybody else like he's backing down. So right now you're watching a negotiation.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I agree with that 100%. And one more point I wanted to add is that is now facing a lot of pushbacks from both parties. And he also has to think about the midterm, which comes up in 2 years. Well, Xi Jinping doesn't have concerns like that. So she knows he has power when it comes to time. He can wait it out where Trump can't. So that's the advantage I think she has over Trump. So they'll both have advantages, but that's just like Max said. They'll probably talk privately and try to find out what's the best solution to this.
Yeah,
The biggest risk is that this continue to escalate. That's going to really hurt the market.
I got to say I don't think the midterms have anything to do with this fight, and here's why. I respect the point, but here's the reality. First of all, the quote pushback that everyone is hearing about is primarily, and we should have learned all this by now because the press is completely full of shit 99.9% of the time. They stir up arguments or they stir up stress, and that's their business. That's how they get viewers. I think the press is telling you a lot more about some pushback than is actually happening. I also think that this process is short-lived at best. All out. I mean, all out. Guys yelling and screaming at each other, and Xi Jinping beating his chest, and Trump beating his chest. I think max, it's 60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
You measure 60 to 90 days from now, and then you come up with a deal. The benefits that the U.S. is going to receive when all this is done in 90 days is going to be so massive that the midterms will not only turn out to be not a pushback, but it'll be an overrun Republican victory.
Yeah, I want to make a few points, and you know, I do agree with Max that this is probably going to be 60 to 90 days. Apparently, a lot of countries are already coming to the table to negotiate with the U.S. So it's just China and perhaps Europe that is, trying to fight or whatever. But the other point I wanted to make is Scott Bessent. I mean, I guess the ideal scenario for him was, if I install these tariffs and kind of like continue with these kind of like international policies, then the U.S. kind of like 10-year note or treasury will essentially go down. But today we had a pretty big rebound today and yesterday from, I think it was 3.8% to 4.3, while also US equities are coming down. So perhaps we're seeing some short-term inflationary issues. So what do you guys make of this? Do you think everything is just playing against what they intended, or any thoughts on why the US 10-year is going up as the stocks go down with these policies?
Real quickly, before you guys answer that, Ben, do you mind while other people are talking to mute your mic? I think there is just a lot of feedback coming from maybe from your speakers or mic. But sorry to interrupt.
Is it my mic?
I think it's coming from your speaker. Like it's somehow coming into your mic, and we can hear like when Loco's talking, coming from you. It's just like a bit of a like what's it called feedback. So it's just only all you have to do is just mute when other people are talking, and I think it'll go away. Sorry to interrupt though. You probably forgot the question. I know I interrupted in the middle, but for Loco, do you want to ask the last part again one more time?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to ask either Max or Ben, whoever wants to take it first, or anyone here really
I know
in
the
the
question. I
on
can.
stage.
Yeah.
What do you guys make of the U.S. Treasury, like the 10-year, kind of like making a rebound here so sharply in the last few days, uh, when it was going down last week as they were rolling out the tariffs?
Okay, well that's going to end because the bounce was coming because everybody thought for 89 seconds that it was all going to be over quickly. So I don't see that bounce lasting at all. I think here's what I think the mistake, the risk of mistake is going to be. If you stare at all the charts for the next 90 days, you're going to need antidepressant medicine and probably multiple subscriptions or prescriptions. Sorry, it's gonna drive anybody that tries to do that crazy. Uh, if one is looking at what's going on right now, let's be very clear: the United States will not lose this process. The United States is the only entity in this fight that can afford the fight. And you take Bessent's background and you take Lutnick's background and you take all the trade guys' background and you take the president, I promise you, you don't want to be the guy playing poker against them. You don't want to do that. Right now, it looks like everybody's being polite on our side. That's not going to last if this doesn't cave in pretty quickly. So I think you've watched other countries kind of load up their double barrel shotguns pretty quickly. And what I don't think you've seen is the, sort of row of cannons that are behind the curtain that the U.S. has that they haven't even shown yet. So I just think this is all. I think this is being so overanalyzed as to what the risk is. The risk is to every other country. That's where the risk is. And the reason 71 of them have already called Scott Bessent up is because they know that. China cannot give up for all the reasons Ben pointed out. China will have to stay nasty and button heads and telling Trump and anybody else who wants to listen, this is a fight to the death. And the entire time they're going to be negotiating on the phone. But you will not hear that once in public until it's done. And that, that may take a couple of months to figure out. This is a paradigm shifting action that will last for decades. It's
Yeah.
not going to be over in a week. It's just not going to. It's not going to. Hey guys, we can only do this for 12 days. No, that's not the battle we're in.
For sure. Now, I would ask. You guys were talking about China, obviously, and we will talk about China on other fronts too and other stuff. But you both, or I think Ben was saying he doesn't think either are gonna back down, China or the U.S. Max is saying it is going to take a while. How do you see it playing out with the rest of the world? Do you think the other countries, because they aren't China as big as China, have the resources that it's going to be pretty quick and they're going to back down a lot, quote unquote, back down a lot quicker? How do you see it playing out with the rest of the world other than China?
Not sure if my mic is fixed. Okay, I can still hear the echo.
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents worth, Bren.
Yeah.
The pressure will only build on. Sorry, they're trying to get me on my phone. The pressure will only build on China as each country comes to an agreement. The very last thing China wants. Here's the very last thing China wants. You don't want 55 other countries to make a deal with Donald Trump and the United States, and you're still telling everybody it's a fight to the death, because it might be a fight to the death then. Because the stronger the other deals get and the more dominoes that fall, the fewer doorways Xi Jinping is going to have to wait to get out. And he might not realize that there's eventually checkmate. Like Ben said, there's not a whole lot of stuff we need to replace to just stop doing business with China. You got to remember, everybody's got to remember this, because it may happen. Without the United States and what it did 45 years ago, China is a farm. That's it.
Yeah. But what do you see? How do you see the odds of recession this year, Max? Because obviously the part of the intention of having the tariffs and lowering the U.S. 10-year Treasury note was to force the Fed to cut rates, at least from Trump's comments. But now, how do you see whether this takes 60 to 90 days, if there's no rate cuts, or maybe just a few at the end of the year? How do you see the economy doing until then?
Well, put it this way. Let's pretend for a minute that we had let's think of a number. Let's say that we had a 5% reduction in GDP. I mean, a very severe recession. It wasn't even 5% annual GDP reduction in the 08-09 collapse, because it didn't last a year. But let's pretend that it was 5% for an entire year. Like, that hasn't happened since we've been alive. Okay? But let's just assume that happens. You know where that would take us? That would take us back to our GDP of last May. Now, I don't know about you, but the fucking world wasn't ending last May. There is nobody that can afford that to happen. Believe me, China will be screaming way before we have a severe recession in the United States. It just isn't going to work out that way. I know everybody wants it. It's almost like It's almost like the fear is like a security blanket. It feels better to be afraid. But in reality, the odds of it happening are microcosmic.
Yeah.
Slightly different view than Max.
Awesome. Love to hear it. I don't know if he cut out or what.
I think he was having some echo issues. Are you
No.
still there, Ben?
No issue if my mic is working, so I don't know how to talk.
I'm sorry. Is your mic is working or it isn't?
It's just every time I say something, I keep hearing the echo. You guys can hear it too, right? I don't know
Uh,
if it's from me or
Slightly. I can hear it when other people are
okay.
talking, but I mean, yeah. If you can answer, I'd love to hear your.
Yeah, I can try to make it quick. I think the big risk here is really not the tariff. Like this is how I thought last time. It's really the ramification of tariff on the global trade. Because I think this is the point where the global free trade is really being broken down. It started in 1995 when WTO was founded, and China, India, and a lot of export-driven countries really grew because of this WTO trade agreement. And now Trump is breaking down, but this global trade system took 30 years to build, and there's a lot of leverage in the system. A lot of companies, they have assets in different countries, and all those assets are collateralized by their debt. And a lot of companies are highly leveraged. And because of what's going on, we're going to see companies really cutting back on their capex, really like put their projects on hold. And their capex is some other companies' revenue. So what we can see is we can see a lot of companies in the next few months really struggling to find ways to sustain their liquidity to be able to not violate the debt covenant. So I think we're going to see a lot of bankruptcies coming up. That's one of my biggest concerns is really the ramification of the global trade being broken down. I think that that's a very high systematic risk that not, a lot of people are not even taking into consideration because everybody's focusing on tariff being real or not. So yeah, this is actually, I think, much bigger than tariff.
Yeah. I see that happening as well. The longer this goes, the more companies will go down and further, putting pressure in the economy. But uh, last week, you and I were speaking, Ben, and you went on a little bit of a shopping spree on Friday, I believe, in a few companies, whether it was the U.S. or China. So, do you want to talk, not perhaps the specific companies, but what's your focus on buying certain companies in the current market?
Yeah. Right now, I think there is some pockets of market that are really, really bullish for the next, 6 to 12 months. One of the market I'm really bullish on is Chinese EV market. If you look at all the global auto companies, especially the auto manufacturers in Europe and the US, they're really struggling right now to like reshuffle their supply chain, to find a new financing, to control their costs. But then on this other spectrum of it, you have BYD that's selling cars in Europe in a record rate. Their market share in Europe went from 1% in 2023 to 3.2% in 2024. And I think it's going to double again this year because they're vertically integrated. They don't really have to worry about supply chain issue. They don't have to worry about cost. They're selling cars from $25,000 all the way up to $250,000. They offer much better product at a much cheaper rate than most of the European auto manufacturers. So that's a company really going to benefit from all this chaos. That's the company I bought on Friday. And what else? U.S. regional banks. They're going to benefit a lot from what's happening, rebuilding the U.S. One thing I want to mention, because I think Max mentioned about Scott Benson. If you guys know this guy, he used to be a hedge fund manager, right? He was with Soros Funds Management. They shorted British pound in 1995, and they made a shitload of money. They made over $1 billion. And this guy started his own hedge fund called Key Square Capital in 2015. And before he stepped into the office, he has to close down all his positions. So I was able to look into the 13F filing and find out what he was buying before he had to liquidate all his positions. Guess what his number one position was? It was QQQ put. He was shorting QQQ before all this started. And the number two position was KRE, US Regional Bank ETF. Number three position was Union Pacific. All those companies are going to benefit from bringing manufacturing back to the US. And all those companies are supporting small to medium business at a local level, right? You have KRE, all the regional banks offering financing to local manufacturing to small businesses, and you have Union Pacific kind of just transporting all the lumber, all the steel around the country, and the coal and all the agriculture products. All those things are telling us that this is really happening. This is the system we're going to build over the next 4 years. So that's the area I'm focusing on. And surprisingly, the fourth largest position he has was Alibaba, which I haven't figured out why, but apparently he's also bullish on some Chinese tech companies, which I'm also bullish on. So
Yeah.
those are areas I'm focusing on right now. I think you're going to see a lot of opportunities in different pockets of the market.
Yeah, that's super helpful. You focus on companies that won't get affected by tariffs, and they remain undervalued. But my question to you, Ben, is, Scott Besson, from his background and previous, life as a hedge fund manager, he seems to be long bonds, short stocks. That's what Bill Ackman was saying, complaining about, who is another very, renowned hedge fund manager. But the bond market doesn't seem to be doing as well either. So what do you make of this? Do you think in the short term everything goes down?
I'm actually pretty bullish on the short term. I'm really happy to see that S&P was able to defend 4,900 today, because that's a very, very critical level. That's the 200-week moving average, not 200-day, but 200-week. Because in the past 25 years, S&P only dipped below its 200-week moving average and stayed there for more than a month. That the only time was in 2008. So if that happens, if we enter into bear market, 4,900 is the level. So I was surprised to see that we didn't go down below that. I was actually be able to snatch on some S&P call options, but before the market closed. But when it comes to fundamentals, I think this to me is just a repeat of 2018 on steroid. The reason why I say it's a repeat of 2018 because that's when Trump first started a trade war, and everybody was panicking. If you guys remember, that was before COVID, and everybody was afraid of inflation. But in 2018, there was no inflation, so it was pretty bullish to me. And also the reason why I say it's 2018 on steroid, because the valuation started in 2025 was way higher than 2018. We started 2018 with about 18 times forward earnings at S&P. We started out this year with 25, no, sorry, not 25, 22.5 times earnings, forward earnings. So the valuation was much higher. It makes sense for stocks to drop much steeper, right? So we're only down 20%. So I think that this is just normal correction. I don't really see it as a like a recession, or a recession is definitely priced in a little bit, but I don't think this is actually the point where we're entering into a recession.
For
Yeah.
sure. Now, Max, Ben talked a little bit about his what the sectors he's focusing on equity wise. I think you told us before kind of your philosophy on buying anything in equities right now over the next few years. But for people maybe have not have heard, what do you think is the best strategy? Focusing on if you like focusing on like the big names that have already done well during these corrections, like the top 50. Um, what are you looking at as far as that goes?
First, I want to go back to something that was said earlier about a string of bankruptcies because global trade was going to be at risk. Um, I I don't think I could disagree with that more, but maybe I could. Um, I want you to think about this. If the current count is somewhere around 60 to 70 countries that are about to end what they've done charging us for decades, and you got one holdout in China, the effect of the other 70 countries is way more cumulative than whatever China holds out for, I don't know, 90 days. I don't know how that connects with a string of bankruptcies. I mean, that's a pretty that a whole lot of things have to go wrong for a whole long time for a string of bankruptcies to unfold. And the very last thing I would own, if that was the case, was a railroad. So I don't know. Maybe I misunderstood, or maybe voices broke out there. But anyway, I think this is, well, I'll tell you what, maybe to help answer this, Ben, I sent you Bren, I sent you 4 charts uh, in the group chat. Can you pull those up and somehow put those on the screen?
Yeah, I got you. Give me a few seconds.
I think seeing a picture is more important than hearing talk. For a second.
Absolutely. All right, which one do you want first? The volatility?
Why don't we take that one in the orange at the top first?
Perfect.
Okay. So this is VIX Monday morning, yesterday morning. Okay. Now, some people look at charts like this and they go, yeah, what the fuck does that mean? Well, I want to tell you what this means. This goes back to 1990. So that's 35 years of fucking shit in the United States economy, because all those spikes were end of the world Armageddons. I mean, literally the end of the world. Now, let's go back and talk about what some of them were. Everybody remembers the tech bear market for 2.5 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 2.5 years of the tech sector of the United States falling 80%. Talk about bankruptcies. That's a shit ton of bankruptcies. Okay. Now, notice how far below the red line that scary time is. Now, everybody remembers the globe almost coming to a complete stop if the United States Federal Treasury had not printed so fucking much money that it pumped blood back into the system. That's mark number 1. You see mark number 1? You see how scared we got? You see the peak of fear right there? Notice where we are now. By the way, the big arrow at the top is where we were Monday morning. It exceeds every single event that we have ever lived through. The key word being lived through. This is so fucking orchestrated that anybody really studying it should have figured it out by now. There is not one single dollar that has been spent in the United States on a new tariff. Not a fucking red cent. And yet, we are so fucking terrified, apparently, that we're more scared of any other time in our history. For some reason, the implication is that we somehow made it through the tech bubble. We somehow made it through every natural disaster of the last 35 years. We made it through every fraud, every market crash, every correction, every bear market. We made it through the global fucking shutdown of COVID. And somehow we're not going to make it through this? Are you kidding me? I mean, it's laughable. This is something else. This is not what everybody thinks it is.
I want to also hear from Ben on his big strategy. I mean, we have spoken about this many times together, so I know he uses a hedge, but as well, I don't know. You have any thoughts on the bigs as well, Ben? Before we move on.
Yeah, first I want to say I agree with Max 100%, right? I look at a VIX every day as well. Like I said, this is a shock with shock with steroids, like I just said. And the bankruptcy, as I mentioned earlier, was what I consider a major risk if trade war continues to escalate and last a long time. Because companies can't do anything in the middle of all this. They kind of have to pause their capex projects, and the revenue they're pausing is the revenue of some other companies they have to make in order to meet their debt covenant. So that's a risk, but I'm not necessarily saying it's going to something that's going to happen. When it comes to VIX, I do believe this is like overshoot. I think VIX is going to come down at some point. Once stuff settles, and I think one thing that makes Mac's point more correct this time is that this can very easily fix. If Trump just wakes up tomorrow morning and he says, "Okay, let's change this whole thing. Let's just make the tariff 10% for everybody," the market is going to shoot straight up to 6,000 in 2 3 days, right? This is different than COVID. This is different than the financial crisis. In the midst of financial crisis, you have a bunch of highly leveraged mortgages that need to be cleared. COVID, everybody stopped doing anything for the entire year. We have to rebuild the supply chain. So that was a shock for everybody. This is more like something that can be easily fixed. So like Max said, it's not going to kill the market. That's why I'm saying I'm pretty bullish short term, but medium term and long term, it depends on how things are going to go from here.
Medium long term being like 2+ years or next year.
I'll say short term will be 1 to 2 months. Medium term will be, you know, 4 6 months. Long term, I would say definitely like 2 3 years.
Oh, so you think that we have a rebound after the tariff thing kind of like gets cleared up, and then later in the year or next year we actually enter a recession?
When it comes to stocks, I do think we are pretty close to a bottom. We are probably already at a bottom today. We'll see what happens, for the rest of the week. But medium term, long term, there's just too many uncertainties out there. We have the record uncertainty, ever since COVID. So nobody can really make a convincing prediction for what's going to happen past, June.
For sure, and that's fair. Now, Max, before we move on, I'm sure you want to go to the next chart. Did you have anything else on this chart specifically you wanted to touch on?
No. I just think, like Ben highlighted, this is I here's all I can tell you. We have so overblown this process. I mean, the amount of money that has been erased on paper, if I added correctly, is now 16 and a half years of maximum trade war, maximum penalties. It is insane. It is so dumb that it's starting to make me think something else is happening that has nothing to do with reality. And that would get a little crazy, but we won't go on that now.
Yeah, we'll save that for another stream, right?
Yeah, why don't you pull up? Go back to those charts that I sent you.
This one?
Yeah, pull up this one. This I thought was kind of comical. So notice number one. Notice the number one on the chart. By the way, this was done Monday morning as well. Okay. So this is a chart everybody can see. It's on CoinMarketCap. And I thought this was kind of funny. Point number one in green is March of 2024. The sentiment reading was 90, meaning a whole lot of people loved Bitcoin. I mean, a ton. Okay. The Bitcoin price was $71,600. Okay. So currently, point number two was Monday. It says today because I did this on Monday. But point number two, the sentiment is 17. 2 weeks ago, it also hit 15. But the price is 76,000. So help me with this logic. At 71,000, we were fucking elated to own Bitcoin. And at 76,000, we can't fucking stand it. So does that seem logical to you? I mean, really?
Nah.
Or does it seem like someone lost their fucking mind? So what does that tell us? It says that the whole crowd is so close to the flame that they can't see anything else. It's so dumb at this point that the only way your mind can not get twisted in the wrong direction is to stop fucking paying attention to it, turn off the screens, and come back in a month, because it's going to drive you batshit. It's crazy. It's so dumb that it makes no sense. And the problem is that it's so dumb, your mind is going to try to make it make sense, and it won't, and you'll be lost.
Just a waste of time. Yeah, for sure.
So let's go to another one of the charts. Go to this one. This is what I wrote in the morning note from Monday. I tried to explain to people that if remember, this reading is on a scale of 0 to 100.
3? Wow.
Okay. So it only has 100 choices, right? It's got 0 to 100. That's it. So I'd like you to think for a second. I would like you to pretend that it doesn't say 3 right now. It says 97. Now, any normal person would look at this chart and pretend it says 97, 3 digits away from the other extreme. You would automatically, I wouldn't even need to explain to you that, whoa, wait a minute, 97, that's pretty fucking bullish. I mean, you would know by gut instinct that the market was probably a little stretched, right? You would just go, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, 97 fucking percent of the crowd is bullish. There's not many more people that can get bullish. That would be obvious. Obvious. But here's what happens. The exact opposite is true right this minute. Except if I tell you that, do you know what your mind is going to tell me? Oh, Mike, you don't fucking understand. It's different, man. The fucking world is falling apart. It has never been this bad. So, no, I don't agree with that. In other words, the crowd psyche is more comfortable buying into the idea that this is dreadful. I mean, this is not only dreadful, but it's going to get a lot worse. And there's a reason it's 3, because it's going to go to 0. Do you see the difference? I mean, this is what happens at extremes. It does not happen at bullish extremes. It happens at scary extremes. Think about it. It's like fear is a security blanket. It feels good to be afraid because you're with everybody else. But I agree with Ben. Buy whatever you want to buy and go to sleep for about 3 or 4 months. Just don't look. Don't read. Don't listen to the news. Don't listen to all the bullshit. Don't try to analyze charts. Don't say, well, what's going to happen if this is going to do this and they're going to do that and that's going to do. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But I can guarantee you that everybody's not going to stay this afraid forever.
Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful.
Bingo. Yes.
Yeah, that's the best quote.
A very rich guy said that.
Just Don't use leverage. Don't do
Right.
margins.
Precisely. Precisely. That is 100% correct.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go one more. Let's get that last chart up here because this, quite honestly, was the most
6.3. Wow.
what
Oh,
is the most no, it's not actually 6.3. It's the one in the corner upper right, 5.2.
oh no.
The chart drawing just hadn't caught up with it when I made this snapshot. Here's my point. Here's my point. Nothing in 20 years beat where we are now. Nothing. I want to tell you that if you really believe that every single thing that has happened to us for 20 years, we were able to overcome, but this one we're not going to be able to overcome, then don't invest your money because you don't understand what's going on. There is no way. There is no way. Now, this does not mean I have all the answers, but there is no way that the United States economy got through every single thing that has happened over the last 20 and 35-year periods. And somehow this is the one thing we're not going to get over. It isn't going to work out that way. I don't care how comfortable it seems or how logical it seems that this is a really bad thing.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have anything else to say, but if you look at the chart of the S&P 500, I don't know if you can pull it up, Brent, and kind of look at the corrections we had over the last 5 years. Would you say that this correction is more similar to COVID type of impact, and we're going to have a V-shaped recovery, or is it going to be more of a 2022 recovery where we slowly find a bottom and then eventually go higher? Just from an understanding.
I think you have a mix of those two events. You know, what do they tell you? What's the wording? It doesn't repeat; it rhymes.
Yep.
I think you're watching a physical structure of the COVID waterfall. Okay, and it's clearly a waterfall. It's straight off the cliff. Do I think it'll recover like COVID did? No, I think it'll be a mix of that and choppiness only because well, let's be serious. Trump is not the kind of guy that won't surprise you, right? So you do have a little bit of a wild card effect, so to speak, because he can come up with another idea every 4 minutes if he wanted to. So that probably isn't fantastic for the jitteriness of the crowd, but I do believe that we're gonna find out that as bad as everything looks and as wonderfully logically as all the quote experts weave together, you ever notice that all media talking heads seem to always magically fit perfectly with what you're watching going on? In other words, you can't find a bull when the market's going down and you get nothing but bears. And they all sound so fucking smart. I mean, they sound like they should be so fucking rich that they don't have any time or wish to be in front of that microphone. Because that's what rich people do. They don't go get in front of a microphone unless it's just some rare fucking event that they happen to be there, and they'll do it while they're there. But you have a plethora of very bearish people when markets are selling off. And they all sound brilliant, right? They sound so brilliant that it's easy to buy into. But they're wrong. Listen, the guys that are bearish right now are the guys that have been bearish since Dow 900 when I started. I I have been in interviews with guys, granted they've been years apart, but they never change their story. They never change. Peter Schiff has been bearish on the future of the United States since he could fucking speak.
Mhm.
And he's pretty old now.
Yeah.
He has never been bullish on the United States, ever in his whole fucking life.
He's only been bullish gold, right?
Well, yeah, because he sells gold. See, a guy who is really bullish gold wouldn't be selling you gold. He'd be
Right.
keeping it. Like, for example, I wouldn't sell you my Bitcoin. I don't care. I don't care how much you give me. I wouldn't sell it to you.
Good point. That's a really good point.
But he's been selling gold his whole life. So why do you think he's bullish gold? Because he wants you to buy it from him.
Of course, everyone has ulterior motives in life, unfortunately.
I mean, it's
I guess
fucking
the the main difference I wanted to make when it comes down to the S&P 500 chart is, during 2020, even before COVID, I believe that we were already on QE, quantitative easing. I think it was light, and then during COVID it accelerated, whereas right now we are still on QT, quantitative tightening. So
yes, sir.
I do believe that, and again, I want to hear from both you and Ben. I know Ben has to jump here soon, but if you guys think that's gonna definitely affect the recovery, since there's no, I mean, quantitative easing on the at least on the short side here.
So your question is, will they go from QT to QE? Is that the question?
Would this situation force them to do pandemic like acceleration of QE once it happens, or they're gonna let it play out?
Well, I mean, the stage is set for the Fed to reduce rates. Uh, they didn't want to appear to be looking like they're listening to Trump. So they began to stage their discussion and their bullet points in a way where it opened the door back to a rate cut or continuation of a rate cut. They cannot ever appear like they're responding to a political pressure. So I think they set the stage nicely for a rate cut in May. If something were to happen between now and then, I think the first thing you would see from the from Chairman Powell would be an immediate opening of the window, and every bank would be able to go to the window and get as much money as they needed or wanted. So liquidity will not be a problem. Okay. The Fed will not let liquidity be the problem. That was the problem in 08 and 09. They will never again let that be a risk. Okay. It's not so important what the interest rate is. It's important that the blood flow continues, and that's liquidity. So the Fed will make sure that the window is open if stresses were to show up in the system. But that's what I'm trying to tell you. No stress has shown up in the system. We have watched a waterfall event on discussion of tariffs, not paying of tariffs. There's a big difference.
But don't you think that there were obviously underlying concerns aside from the tariffs? Or do you think just tariffs can cause such a dip in the markets? I think that's definitely whether it was, concerns of a bubble for AI, or certain stocks and some PE valuations, etc.
Well,
Um,
let's all be clear on this. The news will always come to rescue the explanation of price action. In other words, the news will always match a very solid explanation of what just took place. And they'll give you all sorts of reasons. And it will all sound wonderful. I mean, you will buy it 100%. Okay, 100%. You will say, "Yep, that's right. Yep, AI was out of control. Yep, Nvidia shouldn't have been priced at 42 times earnings. Yep, there's no way Broadcom would have ever met that PE. Yeah, that explains why it's all come down. Except, what do you do when it goes back up? You in other words, the news will always make price action look like it's brilliant. But it isn't the way it works. The Nvidia is not doing less business today than it was 35 days ago. Broadcom is not selling fewer chips than they sold 45 days ago. That is not happening. Fear is all that's happening. Fear, and in my belief, price manipulation. Remember, we've mentioned him a few times already. Remember, who killed the British pound in the 1980s?
Soros.
Who worked for George Soros?
Besant.
Who was pissed when Besant left? George Soros.
Soros.
Who has 1,980 plus NGOs under his name? George
Soros.
Soros. Who has hundreds of fucking $1 billion of our tax money in those NGOs?
Soros.
Who lost his fucking ass at the voting booth?
Soros.
Who wants nothing more than Donald Trump's plan to fail?
Soros. He's a Democrat by.
How do you make certain that Donald Trump looks bad? You take your fucking money that you stole from us and you short the stock market.
Possibly.
Wow. Is Ben still on with us? Yeah, he is. Yeah. Did he have to get off? I can't even see. Let's see.
I'm telling you guys, when we do the autopsy on the last month, and it won't be for a year or two, I'm guaranteeing you that George Soros is at work.
I'm sure he is.
Wow. Let's see. That was all the charts that you sent, right? I think.
Yes, sir, that was it.
Awesome. Now, I don't know if Ben, welcome to stay on whenever. I do want to take this time though to first, wow, an hour through the stream, we have about 1,000 people on here at least at one point. Someone from Twitter, I wish they would add what's it called, concurrent viewers on here, but we all appreciate you guys for being here. We will be on here for a while longer. I first just want to say, if you guys could please like, retweet, comment on the stream so we can get this out to more people. We are going to do a giveaway towards the end of the stream from someone in the chat, and then after the stream I'll do it from the comment, or from the someone who commented on the actual post. Again, we appreciate Ben for being on here. Now, I think Ben doesn't have a Twitter, I don't know, social media presence. He just, blessing us with his presence. But Ben, do you have anything that you'd like to plug, or anything, anywhere people could find you, or no? I don't know if he's still on us. Either way, if you guys haven't already, go ahead and check out the Boss Man Calls Telegram channel. That's where I spend a lot of my time. I do, trade ideas, more in-depth analysis type stuff, giveaways, streams, all that good stuff. Right now, we've just been, my partner and I and Boss Man, been posting a lot of educational stuff while the market is slow. But when the market, and everything is heating up, a lot of meme coin stuff, a lot of good trade ideas and all that. So definitely check that out. And make sure to have post notifications for my Twitter so you don't miss any of these streams. We're going to keep having cool, great people on like Ben, different people in the crypto meme coin space to hear everybody's story, more great analysis. So definitely check out Max as well, his Twitter, Max Crypto 6 here at Team 6 Crypto. He's been posting a lot of his like newsletters that he sends out to thousands of clients. here at Demogronomics. Definitely check out these. He puts them out multiple times a week, and then his YouTube channel as well, which we'll be adding more videos to in the near future. The ones that are up now are great. They go into more of these concepts that we talk about now, but kind of showing real world examples that have happened in the past. So love to see that. And then Olive for Loco, who's been doing these streams with me for about 8 months now. Love this guy with Bridge 3 Labs. They're a great community NFT project that gives you access to a great community of smart people. But for Loco, do you want to break down what you guys are doing lately or anything else that I missed?
Yeah, I appreciate you, Ben. Brent, thanks for the plug-in and enjoying doing the streams. I think it's been like now almost a year, no, a little bit less than a year, but it's damn passed super fast.
Yeah,
The yeah, so our community is it's a community of about 400 or 500 investors and entrepreneurs that we started back in, I believe, 2021, 2022, and we got together under communities. We started in Discord, and now we have also a small Telegram group where we discuss trading ideas and what we are looking at investing together. Whether you're building your own startup or kind of like business in Web3 or in real life, we kind of like help each other find the right resources. And then when you join our community, we have an NFT called B3L Beasts. It's on Ethereum. There's about 1,000 NFTs, and each of these NFTs gives you access to what Brent mentioned. It's kind of like access to resources and the great people that we have in there to help you navigate the current market, whether it's crypto or stocks. We pretty much talk everything investing, in trying to better your life in different ways. So yeah, if you want to learn more about us, you have our Twitter account is Bridge 3 Labs, and our website as well. You can learn more about us. So thank you for joining.
Everybody there?
We all left.
Oh,
Yeah,
my bad.
there we
I
go.
just realized I was muted while Furloco was talking. But it looks like Ben did leave. Let me go to another screen here. I do want to go to the chat for the first time for a while. I'm sure some people had some questions before we move on. Let me see here. Always active. Cryptotobius. Okay, you guys convinced me to buy. Let me see here. Never mind. Reached 1K. Jeremy Murray says Soros shorting the market and all his buddies also is the only possible explanation for this depth of correction. All-time highs will come again this year. Yeah. Let me see if I missed anything. We appreciate you guys for being here. I think the number one thing, and Max said it pretty well, is that hopefully with these streams we can help people freaking get a grip during these times. I know, like Max was saying earlier, there's so much shit going on. Every time people try to explain why this time's worse, even though we've survived so many of these corrections in the past, or every time in the past. I hope these, again, these streams have bring you guys a lot of value. But what else? Did you see, Max, that Elon's like take on the tariffs and how he's kind of pushing back against it?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, he's a car maker, so
Yeah.
he's gonna speak his interest, and
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Of course. What else for Loco? You see a lot of these other countries, like we were saying, South Korea said it won't fight back against these trade deals. Let's see. What else over the last?
I guess we can perhaps kind of like switch gears to crypto unless we want to keep discussing macro.
I was trying to
Perhaps
see
looking
if
at
there's
some.
anything else I forgot or missed the last few days. I don't think so, but yeah, we can go into crypto. Again, we touched on the top of the show, Bitcoin coming down again under that 80K. Technically closing that CME gap we've been talking about for a while. Now, for me, technically just chart wise, this is a second low in the corrective channels. Looking very similar structure wise to what we saw in summer of 2024. Not only chart wise, just very similar in general. I think what's very likely again to play out is a variation on the theme of this, where this being the second low, maybe we come back down in the 70s a bit more. Highest probability, I think we probably chop, and then that's probably it, in my opinion. Of course, we could always come back up and form another low in the 60s if we fail to break up again here. But I'm more in the camp like Max is saying that we'll likely see a lot of volatility and chop over the next few months as this thing's play out. But yeah, I'm still if you've been on these streams, I'm adamant again that we're not seeing a 2021 like bear market. But again, people have short memories. Again, we've been through these mid-cycle, quote unquote, mid-cycle corrections twice in the last 18 months, where the market will, stop. Bitcoin will come down 20 to 30% for 4 to 6 months. Memes, alts, everything come down hard, and then Bitcoin bottoms out usually when it's everybody's bored, kind of like we're getting towards now, and then market starts going up. The good memes, alts, everything that survives start going up with it. Ideally, I think that's exactly similar to what we're going to see now. Again, does it take 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months? Who fucking knows? But again, we just got to wait this thing out. And, on the other side of this is going to be, I think, the most explosive move. One of the most explosive moves we've ever seen. So, what about you, Furloco? What are your thoughts on going on right now?
In terms of crypto majors, or what particularly?
Yeah, just the majors. Yeah, I mean, just thoughts of the last few days.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see Bitcoin hold this 77,000 range. But then again, these are just short term like goals that I have. Ideally we don't break under that. Otherwise, I could see us definitely go in the 60s. I mean, worst case scenario, like high 50s. Is that possible? Likely not. But the
I think
Oh, you just got out.
Oh man,
Damn.
Dude, I haven't been trading at all this cycle. I don't know. I'm just waiting.
yeah. I mean, do we go into the fucking low 70s, the high 60s? Who fucking knows? I think we talked about a few times on this stream that 2021, which is quote unquote the last bear market, right? Which is the one where bear market meaning long term, multi year, 70% correction on Bitcoin. We just have a way different buyer, whole different world than we're in now. All the institutions, all these high net worth individuals, where if we're going to get down to the 60s, the chance that these people wouldn't buy a fucking huge amount of the supply or whatever, very low. So yeah, who fucking knows? Is going to the 70s, 60s. It's anybody's fucking guess. But I'm just continuing to buy Bitcoin, ETH, Sol. And I've been starting to add a lot more like higher cap alts lately.
Yeah.
More so, real quickly, just like the Taos. Really just the throwing a dart at like the top 50, like we've been talking about. I think if you're able to wait a few years, I think it's great returns with very little rug risk in
Yeah.
crypto. Were you going to say something, for Loco?
How much of what I was saying you hear? I thought at some point I lost connection.
Yeah, you did cut out when I forgot exactly what you cut out on.
Yeah, I guess when it comes down to crypto, I feel the most comfortable holding Bitcoin, but I'm not sure we have seen the bottom yet. Again, ideally, I like to hold this 75, 76,000 range. That seems to be holding up fairly well so far, but again, there could be further downside. So aside from that, I'm mostly on stables and really just kind of like waiting it out. So it's just Bitcoin and stables, and obviously I have my own fund, uh, very little allocation to my portfolios and stuff like Farcoin, etc. Just because I I tend to use it as a kind of like a health indicator of the crypto, how, like crypto health is doing, and it's tends to be one of the most reflexive crypto tokens, whether it's good news or bad news. It just seems to be almost waiting for any good positive headlines to explode on the upside. So that's kind of like the fun part of it. Otherwise, I'd rather do what Max says, just buy and hold and come back in a few months, right? Because it's not fun to live through crypto during these times, and we have been doing this for many years, but it's not easy to show up every day and just see your crypto and your charts going down and down, and It's part of what it is. Part of what it is to be in an industry like this. I guess I wouldn't change it for anything else. And yeah, we'll just navigate this volatility, and we'll have better times, better days.
Absolutely. And I want to hear from Max, but you said it perfectly. It's like if we know every single time that not only the traditional markets, but crypto has lived through these corrections, always going to climb higher, what's the fucking point on just like worrying about every single little headline? Is it so that like we can like ease our mind for like a fucking a few, like we don't have to worry a few more weeks? It's just pointless. So 100% agree. Even myself, somebody who's so fucking in this is my life, like, crypto and the markets and stuff, like, even I've taken a step back and paid less attention to every single headline and looked at charts less, and it's a lot more freeing. Relieves a lot more stress, and definitely a great point. Max, I know, it's all about just waiting it out and letting this thing play out. But you were talking a lot about that CME gap. Do you have any, thoughts on where we're at right here? Actually, closing below that CME gap now.
No,
Yeah.
no. I would just add that uh, a couple of lessons I've learned is when you watch something every 48 seconds, it never does what you want it to do.
Yep.
You can't will it to do that. You also get more fucked up the more you watch it. Number two, um, people keep thinking that the fact that, I mean, look at that chart. Look at that chart. It's like, oh, so we came down a little from the top. Look how far we are from the bottom.
Yep.
I mean, the ludicrousness of some of this stuff will dawn on people later, either after the market's 180 or after they've sold and they let fear get the best of them. But here's the part you have to accept, okay? If the market were readable, understandable, if you knew where it was going to be on Thursday at 5 o'clock, and you knew where it was going to be next Wednesday at 3:30 in the afternoon, and you knew where it was generally going to be in June of this year, and then where it would be next year about the same time, guess what? You don't get to fucking make any money. You see, there is no payment for an assured pathway. There is none. Nothing. You get about 1% in a bank for an assured pathway. You don't get 3 times your money. You don't get 1 times your money. You don't get a half a times your money. If it's assured, you get nothing. The fact that there's risk is why you get to make a fortune. The question is, will you be able to do it?
Absolutely. Let's see. Let me go to the chat. Fucking for Loco, what time you gotta get off today?
Say that again.
What time do you have to get off today?
I can stay for a little bit longer. We gonna talk NFTs and other
Yeah,
areas. I know there's not much happening, but
for sure. No, we're gonna go till 2, till 3. I'm just making sure what time. I was just asking what time you're gonna get off. Bossman seems so bullish on Fartcoin. Brent, thoughts on Fartcoin? Yeah, no, I agree. I think Fartcoin, besides showing strength, I think it has a legitimate like community. Like I always talk about, like during these times, it always shows. You can always tell what community has like strongholders and people actually holding through these big corrections. And those are the coins that pump when things keep going up. So yeah, I think Fartcoin, even though it's younger than a lot of these, MOG, Giga, SPX, the ones that I really have a lot of conviction in, I do think Fartcoin is up there with those. So yeah, I think Fartcoin will likely make new all-time highs.
yeah, from my perspective, and again, this is a meme coin, so anything that is not financial advice, nothing really fundamental, but I believe Farson has captured kind of like the Bored Ape Jack Club of NFTs. I can call the call it to be like the mainstream meme coin of the cycle. It has captured a lot of attention from Wall Street, and I think there's a lot of whales and market makers really involved in this token. It has also sucked a lot of liquidity from other meme coins, and you can see. I mean, if you look on chain, a lot of people swapping some of the meme coins that have gone through 90 or 80, 90% corrections, and a lot of people through the depression happens with stocks or tokens. They tend to sell during depression times, which is the bottom, right? So they have been swapping those, other Solana meme coins to buy Farcoin. So you're seeing more holders and more strength on Farcoin, kind of like accumulating that, excess or uh, last little bits of liquidity and meme coins going to Farcoin. So it's just capturing the attention, right? And what happens with any meme coins is they really thrive on attention, and we've seen so far the relative performance strength uh, compared to any other crypto, even like Bitcoin. The Bitcoin and Filecoin are probably the best performing, uh, you know, crypto tokens right now. And you see Solana is holding up that 100 level, but Ethereum is back at 1500. And I always want to hear your thoughts on Ethereum, Brent, because I think we have kind of like a little bit like different disparate views on Ethereum, which I think is good that we do, so that we can kind of like tell the audience, what our case, bull case scenario or bear case scenario for the token is. But I do think that Bitcoin will do well. Solana will
Yeah.
probably bounce back here when there's more liquidity into the meme coins, as this functions as the casino of crypto. But I'm not that convinced on Ethereum. I hate to say it,
Yeah,
because I know you
I
would
think
like it.
for sure, and that's fair enough. And I mean, you've had arguments before of what you're looking at usage with the L2s is common arguments people have kind of when fudding or just questioning Ethereum. I think it's you got to look at Ethereum's 15-year fucking history first of all. I think a lot of people are judging Ethereum's future just based on the last fucking whatever this is. Just it's not performing well versus Sol and other things the last few years. But I think like what Max always says, it's not about what's happened; it's about what's happening going forward. And I think while yes, it's for Ethereum holders, it's not fun to have not performed well versus Sol. I think we got to look at what's happening now in crypto with the regulations, with the digital asset stockpile, the eventual reserve, sovereign wealth fund, all these different things that are happening, and what's going to drive crypto's future, and why it's going to fucking absorb everything, like we always talk about in the show. Ethereum is going to be not one of, if not the biggest winner of that regulatory clarity. We're already seeing it. That's my thesis, at least. Like we're already seeing it with BlackRock. The BlackRock, one of the head guys the other day was talking about how Ethereum's, a lot of these institutional guys, they value security and decentralization and all that, and that's why they're building on Ethereum. So who knows? Is Ethereum like the only one or the main one that captures RWAs and tokens and all that? So far, I would guess most of it, yes. But either way, I think it's uh, wouldn't. It's not going to be. I think if judging Ethereum based on the last year and a half, and saying it's not going to do well based on that or even perform, I think is a little bit short sighted, and missing kind of the bigger picture in the sense that what's happened in the last few years isn't going to dictate what happens in the next couple years. Especially, you just got to look at what's happening fundamentally. Kind of pay attention to the current, like Max is saying, not the waves. And that's why I think ETH's likely going to outperform Sol from here. And even if it doesn't, I think it's pretty ridiculous to see it not go to 5, 10, 15K as Bitcoin goes way higher.
Yeah, I do hope so as well. Let's look at the chat. There's a bunch of questions that we should probably respond and pay attention. One from Justin, asking Ben, why do you think China will do better? I don't think he mentioned that China will do better in the US. In fact, I believe he said the US will
He
need
said market
outperform.
wise,
He just
for
mentioned,
markets though. I think he said he thinks the China over the next few years, like 2 to 3. He said because he said he can't predict 5, but he said over the next 2 to 3, he thinks Chinese like stock market is going to outperform U.S.
oh,
And
due to the QE that they're actually printing nonstop, or
I'm not
just
sure
because
his
of the
reasoning
cycle.
for this, but that was his last call. He had said that.
Yeah. And I think he hasn't really shown a lot of interest. This is from what we discussed outside of these spaces. Not a lot of interest in buying Chinese stocks per se, unless they are very much like non-correlated to the tariffs. Like he was saying, EV calls like BYD, just because there's obvious strength that is growing outside of China. And I believe there was another robotics company, because as you're seeing, China is undergoing a tremendous demographic decline, because they had this policy where you can only have one child, and that turned out to be a very bad decision. And so now there's a problem with aging population, that pretty much one working young individual has to take care of two old or two elders on average, something like that, which is in turn forcing them to really innovate on robotics and AI, so they can replace the working force, and in turn grow the GDP. So I think he's investing mostly in robotics and EV, as a way to kind of like outperform the overall Chinese stock market.
For sure. I think Max talked a lot about that last time. It's all in the demographics, right, Max? But what are the
So a
you
few
guys?
other questions in the
You
chat.
guys checked ETF inflows of Bitcoin and ETH from big investors? Yeah, Max, do you check the ETF inflows often?
I don't, only because it's all emotionally driven.
Yeah.
When prices are going up, lots of inflows come in. When prices are going down, inflows don't come in.
Yeah. Brand, few streams ago, I asked, why is BNB not considered on the majors, on one of the majors. So first of all, everybody has a different definition of the quote unquote majors. When I say the majors, I just mean Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, dude. Um, Obviously, when you could spread out majors to be like the top 50, top 20. Everybody has a different definition. BNB is obviously a top 10 coin, so it's a major coin. It has time in the game. I expect it to. So in that sense, obviously, it's a major. But that's what I mean when I say major. Just the top three: Bitcoin, ETH, Sol. I'd rather hold Bitcoin and Sol. I'm not so convinced with ETH. Yeah, I still think ETH is up there with Bitcoin with as far as just DCAing and never selling, just hold and forget, set and forget. I think a lot of other people, the consensus is just kind of Bitcoin only, like Sol and ETH, are too volatile. But again, I don't put too much weight on the last year and a half. You got to look at the last 10 years that Ethereum's been around, and what's going on. That's going to drive the next 5-10 years of crypto, and I think that's going to be the regulatory stuff and a lot of the institutions, companies, all that, countries, all that. I think they're going to buy a shitload of fucking ETH because it's a huge part of the of what's going on here.
Yeah. And everything said that this is more of a buying opportunity and selling opportunity. I think was saying in regards to the stock market, but obviously he's heavily involved in Bitcoin and Ethereum as well. So he probably refers to, at this point, any risk asset that is down over 30 to 50% in many cases.
That's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
so
I think though, when Larry Fink put in a public letter to clients that Bitcoin would be even remotely related to a reserve currency, I think he told you all you needed to hear.
Yeah,
I
writings on
mean,
the wall.
the fact that he would put that on a BlackRock client letter
Done
and
deal.
even like have Bitcoin and reserve currency 5 sentences apart, much less in the same sentence, that was gigantic. That was gigantic.
Yeah, for sure. It's nuts. XRP. Someone's asking about. Yeah, we've been clear on the streams too. XRP's up there. Throw a dart at the top 50. Very likely something to do with the banking system, even if it doesn't become like the fucking banking reserve fucking standard. $5, $10 plus is probably. Max, do you think Elon will lose a lot because of tariffs?
I don't think it matters to Elon if he loses a lot because of tariffs.
Yeah. Luke is down 3x. See here. I do want to hit NFTs a little bit before top of the hour. I want to make sure we get to all your guys' questions. We appreciate you for being on here, especially during these times where most people, the quietest time I've seen crypto Twitter since August of 2024, or like maybe summer of 2024, kind of right before the bottom. It's usually what happens. The first stream that Max came on, I think he talked about, you know, these markets end almost always when the train, everybody's left the train. The train leaves the station when like everybody's off of it. As you can see now, there's still people on Twitter, there's still people talking, but a lot of the people have left the train. So it's exactly what we want to be seeing at the end of these corrections. My point is, we appreciate you for being on here during a quiet time. We're going to keep doing these streams no matter, we're at all time highs, 30% down from the all time highs. We love doing this, bringing on good people. We're going to continue to up the content value. Gonna all have cameras and stuff. Eventually, you see Max's sick ass fucking picture. Before we have face cams, we need all to get one of those. We're all lacking, but we appreciate you guys seriously for being on this. Rhodes, are you still there with us, brother? If not, it's all
Always,
good. Okay, good.
always.
Why do I even ask? Of course you're fucking here, dude.
Yeah, I'm always I'm lurking.
Oh yeah. Max, for Loco, anything we want to hit here before we move on to NFTs? Anything I'm forgetting?
I think
No, I don't think so, man. I mean, just small headlines. Coinbase scams. There's a ton of Coinbase is one of the stocks that has actually gone destroyed the most, and unfortunate to see because there's a lot of like I think there's just a ton of like very positive progress in the industry in general, whether it's like you know SEC dropping lawsuits or payment integrations with major companies like entering the crypto rails. There's a ton of like positive headlines that are pretty much being ignored just because of the whole macro environment, which I think in any other scenario, any of these headlines will literally send Bitcoin up and 10,000 in one day, 1 or 2 days. But we're unfortunately living in an environment where any good headlines is almost like a sell the news event, at least for now.
Yeah.
Um,
Where,
yeah,
Crazy to see where Coinbase has come though. Like on that note, from 2023 only,
yeah.
35 10x run on a fucking stock like that. Insane. Kind of just got to zoom out, but definitely fair point. Insane to see it come down from where it opened at 430 down to $30. I think Coinbase is obviously a bet on crypto, in the crypto industry, right? And as we talked about on these streams, I think crypto is going to consume everything. I would assume Coinbase becomes one of the biggest companies out there, right? Is that like a fair assessment, Max?
I would agree.
Yeah. For Loco, what do you think?
In terms of Coinbase, look, long term, I definitely think is a buy. Uh, and again, I think the company itself it just keeps coming up with you know interesting updates, partnerships, and growth prospects that I'm excited about. But I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to see Coinbase, rebound unless we see, Bitcoin doing so as well.
Of
But
course.
I do think that I think, what are we retesting right now? What's that level?
Like
130 something?
we're like 150, like 60%
Yeah.
down from
So
highs.
that we pretty much have retraced the whole 2024, not 2024, but,
Yeah, I
almost
think
a year.
similar to Bitcoin, it's like similar to the
Yeah.
summer correction of 24. I'd assume, even though this looks more sharp and impulsive, that with Bitcoin, like you just said, I think this thing's all interconnected. Obviously, risk assets, Bitcoin, stock market, Coinbase is like a hybrid of both of those. I expect when both of those rebound, whenever that fucking happens, that Coinbase goes to new all time highs. But I don't want to spend too much time on Coinbase. We want to hit NFTs. Rotes, are you able to? I forgot what day it is, brother. Like when you have your shared.
Fridays I can share.
Okay.
Tuesdays I can't, but I can share good information when it comes to NFTs.
Let's go.
So over the last roughly 10 days, we have been ping ponging at 1:1 buyer to seller ratio or above. So that's positive. I know we had taken a bit of a step back there and went underneath that threshold there for a period of time, but again, we're still seeing some some positive indicators on the more buyers and sellers. So that means technically accumulation and interest in the NFT market. So that's really good. Over the last 6 months, NFT prices on the blue chips are essentially flat when it comes to ETH terms. We are down about 22% when it comes to USD value. That's just Ethereum. So really, you're getting a 20% discount overall, everything being equal, right? So USD value down 20%, but NFTs are flatline. So I think it's a really good time to accumulate and get some on the sidelines. When I think where all this panic exists, those who are bold will reap the most rewards. Of course, doesn't go without risk, but that's kind of the steps you have to make. So overall, pretty good. You see a few of those NFTs repricing. I can see there Milady's VeeFriends that you have highlighted on there, up on the last 24 hours. Or actually, that's a 7-day. So that's good to see. So you see some repricing across the board, but for the most part, the Ethereum prices are down. Of course, we had seen a little bit of momentum prior to this latest flush out. So you're going to be natural to expect a lot of the NFTs to be down, but it's a leveraged bet on Ethereum, and of course, Ethereum not doing well. That all kind of gets exasperated in terms of how the price performance is, and that's where you see these general speaking discounts that exist. Now, it's not going to totally reprice, right? Just like it's not going to totally reprice if Ethereum moves up really fast. So you have to keep that in perspective. That just as much as the USD value is down 20%, doesn't mean that they're going to move the price up into 20% over the next 10, 20 days, but expect it to kind of close that gap a bit. So that's really good. But yeah, quality projects, that's kind of where we still stay in line. And with that,
Anything like any news this week from any NFT projects? Anything crazy? I can't think. I would think a few things on VeeFriends, but like besides any like big anything coming out, I don't even know. It's been pretty quiet this week, I think, NFT wise. Let's see.
A few punk sales, right? Around
there's been some
42,
quality punk
40.
sales,
These are
69 ETH as well. Some quality punk accumulations.
yeah.
That's good. But otherwise, fairly quiet. There's still some rumblings around creeps token distribution, etc. On their gaming token. So there's still a bit on that, and the kind of the positive and negative drama that surrounds there. I haven't heard a lot on the Doodle side of things in regards to their token, and the kind of the front running of token. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, Furloco nailed it. That there's some larger punk sales and some accumulations there. Of course, punks are on a discount, and with
Wait,
punks being on a
yeah,
discount, then you see those that can afford will go in there and buy those discounts and
yeah.
add some of the grails.
I, there's there's a great. I mean, I don't want to call it advantage, but there is an advantage with NFTs. Is that since most of them are priced in Ethereum, there's really a play there if you're really paying attention. Like some of these
Yeah.
punks might be listed at 40 and then Ethereum goes down 20% and then you're getting a discount, right? And so in USD terms, when it comes down to NFTs, there's really a bunch of them that you can kind of like make, here a few trades, or if whether you're a trader or just want to buy value in days like yesterday and the last few days where the underlying token was down significantly.
Yeah.
You can still buy the very limited valuable item, whether it's a punk, a pudgy penguin, or a bored ape, and get that
Right.
delta.
Really, it's like right now if you're looking to accumulate NFTs before, if you think there's going to be, you attribute that there's going to be a bull run like myself or others, I think buying anything, if you have stables right now, buying Ethereum and buying NFTs, like for example, like the VeeFriends are almost at 3 or 4 year highs, yet you can get one for what, 2.5K. All of these, Bored Ape, even though, the floor prices, the repricing, like you were saying, you can get a lot of these really cheap. And if and when my case, I think we're going to get like a really like a digital digital asset super cycle, not just a crypto super cycle, fueled by this regulatory stuff. And at that same time, I think there's going to be a time where crypto and NFTs run at the same time. And if and when that does happen, even if one takes over, before the other, if you're able to buy some of these NFTs right now with ETH low and NFTs low, I think you're gonna get some amazing entries. So yeah, I'm on the same page as Rotes. I still think I think it's becoming more and more evident on Twitter. You're specifically seeing in VeeFriends and other projects, a lot of these people who are kind of NFT native people start to buy a lot of rare NFTs again. I'm seeing it in Bored Apes. Seeing it in maybe not so much Pudgies, but in VeeFriends especially Azuki. And that's usually a sign that when whales and people are starting to see the writing on the wall and stuff like that, that's usually a sign before a major bottom. So I think we're seeing CryptoPunks start to push up. We're seeing Bored Apes at 14, kind of coming down a little bit from 15, but typically I think there's going to be a tipping point here, whether it be some type of integration, some type of bill that gets passed that allows NFTs to do something like raise equity, or maybe RWAs like Max is saying. Maybe it's just overall momentum. I think NFTs are going to hit that tipping point at some point, and we will get that NFT bull run. So yeah, and I don't think, who knows if we get back to 2021 where fucking new mints are going crazy. I think typically that's what happened. That's what happened to crypto. Usually it's more euphoric that second bull run. But either way, I think for me, the top 5 to 10, there's going to be 5 to 10 2021 projects. Probably a lot of them that you're seeing on this top 10 now, that are strong
Yep.
IPs that actually end up being real businesses, kind of very important NFTs of this era that are going to go to probably new all-time highs or close. And then I still think meme coin NFTs, ordinals, and then obviously CryptoPunks, I think are probably going to probably go to a
And you,
million.
you nailed it there. You want to stick to the quality through this, right? So the repricing and discount is going to be more observed in the quality projects, and how you define quality is really where you see the volume, right? Projects that have the volume are the projects that have a lot of the attention. Of course, there are some lower volume, small collections, lower volume NFT art collections that are also quality but don't necessarily see the volume. But that's where you're going to see those discounts.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this week, Gary Vee gave away like 70 or 80 of these series 2s like on the timeline, getting like a lot of new people into it. And another reason I'm so fucking bullish on VeeFriends, besides him just being such a great operator, is just his ability to like onboard new people, new collectors, whether it be card collectors that don't know shit about NFTs, or just people that that know about him but don't know about NFTs or collecting. There's nobody in NFTs, maybe like Pudgy Penguins because they have the toys and stuff, but like a direct connection to as these digital assets become more important and everybody has NFTs, like nobody's going to be able to onboard them more than Gary Vee. And you see it with these this giveaways he's doing, all these new people coming in just literally just from him 2 hours doing like a giveaway. So
Get me a Gary V TCG, right?
yeah. Did you see that the card?
Is he doing a trading card game? I saw the box of cards, but
So yeah,
he can
so
do like a actual game with the cards. I think that'd be pretty fire.
yeah, they actually do have TCG right now. They have a Series 1 cards that's just like the Series 1s that we always show on here, like the sketches. There's only 10,000 of those cards in general. And then they have a Series 2, which is both more like those Series 2 characters. There's a lot more cards, and then that's a TCG game as well.
Nice.
I think they're going to revamp that, but that's actually pretty popular among the community. And then this Topps Chrome release is what they're doing. Is obviously Topps is a huge company, so all these Topps Chromes cards are going to be at least offered to all the Topps retailers around the U.S., which is like all the card shops. So it's a big like coming out for like VeeFriends and the collector community in general. And actually, like they just had for example, like the Gift Goats got this Sapphire box, for example. There's only 555 of those Gift Goats, and right now, they're selling, or like people are offering like $5,000 for that box. So I mean, I bought my Gift Goat for like 2 ETH here, probably when it was at like 3,000. So just that box alone is gonna like pretty much pay off
Can I still get my box?
Yes, yeah. That's the box I told you about and sent to you. Just the last few days, people started putting offers on eBay about them. So yeah,
Okay.
talk about it. If you want to sell it, I can help you with that. But yeah, the that's just an example. I think the V Friends. I think what's NFTs. There's going to be a big kind of push on IRL kind of utility. I think Izuki, all these different eight fest, they already have that, but and I think VFriends does it better than anybody. Like there's a, for example, like the book games, for example, which is another one of their collection. They have where you could burn like 3 of those to go to like this cocktail party that they're having. Just a lot of where you can do with Gary and stuff. There's just a lot of cool stuff they're doing. Anything else NFT wise though? Coming close to the top of the hour.
Have you guys dug into, or maybe Rhodes into abstract chain? I know that Luca Nets from Pudgy Penguins has been pushing it. Is there a lot of activity going on in there, or I know there's a bunch of collections there and a lot of people trying to build developers, streams, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I've said often that these secondary chains aren't necessarily my flavor. That I tend to lean towards Ethereum, Solana, Ordinals. I know there has been some launches for Abstract that have launched on Ethereum, but then have an abstract element, and I think that's really smart way to play it, right? Ethereum really tends to be the collector chain when it comes to NFTs, and Abstract allows for whether it's a gaming element, whether it's for secondary elements that can be traded at a lower cost, that sort of thing. But in terms of full-on collections, there's a few that were kind of hyped up. Some have chosen to go Ethereum and then do an abstract kind of portion to it. So yeah, for the most part, I'm fading the secondary chains just because we've kind of seen them come and go in the past. And until something really kind of builds and develops, I just think it's too fleeting. And that I would focus still on Ethereum, maybe Solana, maybe Ordinals to a degree, but just given the state that everything's pretty quiet right now, Ethereum is really kind of the main attention to where the quality is.
Yeah.
Not saying there can't be wins on the other sides of it. I just, if there are wins, they're short-term gains, that kind of thing. And you have to kind of really be zoned in as an expert on that chain and focus on that chain. And I think
Yeah.
that's where you have the most success. So, if that's your kind of your game plan, then yeah, you dig in, you get into it, and you become an expert on abstract and everything abstract. Watch the streamers on there, and get right into the community, and that's where you can get some of those wins. Otherwise, you're going to be just chasing, and
Yeah.
a lot of that activity will kind of come and go really fast.
And the problem with all these chains and in general in crypto is that everything works as a funnel, right? And I guess it's like a river with multiple streams, right? Like if Ethereum is not doing well, you can't expect all these other chains to do well, whether it's L2s, L3s, or other chains. Like we all saw what happened with when Say and Sui launched, and Sui did well mostly on meme coins not too long ago. But I remember the early 2024 times with Say NFTs
Yeah.
and Science and all of those are short lived, right? If
Mm-hmm.
the majors and kind of like the beginning, the main start of the kind of like the funnel, the river stream is not working, those are gonna dry out eventually. So you're right. You can buy if you're an expert. You can dig into the latest and greatest, but as long as the bigger part of the stream flow is not healthy, I don't see this really growing in any meaningful way. I'm not saying I fade Lucanets. I think everything that he has done with Pudgy and Abstract even like will eventually pay out, but not in the short term. So you want to definitely keep your chips and your liquidity close to you because there's just so many other opportunities elsewhere, right? Like if you look at stocks, majors, just there's sales everywhere. So it's difficult to really go down so deep into the river stream and buying, say NFTs or abstract NFTs or anything that is not, doesn't have either any sort of liquidity or attention at this moment.
For
So
sure. Yeah, the NFT side completely like yeah, you're just kind of guessing. You're kind of hoping whatever that the one that you pick, if abstract does pick up, survives. I do think Pengu. If this kind of NFT, digital asset super cycle does pick up, I do think because there is such a great operator behind Luca, and I think this, if you have time, check out this article he wrote about social currencies instead of like meme coins, and pretty much how you know uh, there's going to be currencies out there in different communities that where you're going to integrate it into a lot of different things, and it's just his idea for social currencies. We don't have much time, so I don't want to get too into it. But I think this is the future of what like something like Pengu or like what VFriends is going to do with their coin, where this community you can integrate the token into everything they're doing, where it actually gives it quote unquote more utility than just the community. I think there's going to be kind of the utility coins that are few and far between that actually have good tech. There's going to be meme coins, and then this kind of social currency kind of sector as well. Definitely read into this. Very interesting. Before we get off here, 5 minutes. We do appreciate you guys for being on. We'll be back on Friday at 10 a.m. PST. Someone said you want to check out. Oh, I saw somebody said it said Brenna's VFriend your highest conviction NFT. Absolutely, yeah. We'll check out Fries really quickly for you since you about 10 of you asked about it. And then somebody asked, do you have a strategy for meme coins during the bear market or like during times like this? Yeah, I think right now it's just accumulating coins that have been through this shit before. It's easy. Like Giga, for example, been through 70% correction 6 times during the last whatever 18 months, 12 months. There's no reason to if you like the fucking casino shit, even right now that's terrible conditions. But there's no reason to complicate it. Buy the coins that have survived this shit before. They're 5-10x from all time highs. The few of them that do recover, those are going to be all the gains you fucking need. 10x from here, more. There's no reason to overcomplicate it. Just have patience. Besides that, guys,
Well
uh,
said.
what are your strategies for the future? Pretty much, brother, just keep accumulating, get accumulating as much Bitcoin, ETH value as I can. Stay in the game, keep learning, keep getting better, keep doing these streams with you guys, and just keep going, brother. Justine, as always, powerful stream. Yeah, I appreciate you guys for being on. Anything else, guys, for Loco? Any?
No, I think it's a good way, a good time to kind of like close it up. I think we kind of like went over pretty much the most important headlines and news, and let's see what happens here over the night and tomorrow in the next few days. But we'll be ready on Friday to bring you guys the latest and greatest, and hopefully it's a green day when we when we do that. So
Yeah, we will bring you every bloody piece of it.
Yes, sir. I love that,
yes,
man.
sir.
I love that. Rotes, anything else for the audience, brother?
Oh, love the show. This will pass. We'll get through this chaos. I think the best thing that you can take away from this is the fear and greed and fear element at 3, and just consider that, flip that 97, bullish as fuck, 3, scared as fuck,
Yeah,
do the opposite, and away you go, right? And
there you go,
I
man.
think we're overreacting, and let's get on it.
Awesome. Danksy, anything from you, brother?
No, I'm just buying the dip later today, so probably gonna buy
Love
some Bitcoin and ETH and just sit on my hands again.
Love that. Can't go wrong with that. Soul says dope PFP Max. Yeah, how fucking sick is that thing, right? Yeah, I gotta connected with somebody who's fucking cold with the AI stuff. So I don't know if you guys seen the few clips that I put out, just the posters or whatever, super cool shit. So gonna have him do a lot of editing for clips from TikTok, Instagram, all of that. So super fucking stoked on that. Daddy J Cam says keep doing the good work. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Again, Friday, 10 a.m. PST. We love you guys.
Be safe, everybody.
Be safe, everybody, and I will see you on the next one.
Thank you all.
Nice.
Cheers.
See you guys.